Well, another big story that has not gone away, but have we made any progress? There are new concerns over the Obama administration's initial commitment to getting to the bottom of the IRS scandal. But it's been more than 5 weeks since the president vowed to find out who was behind the targeting of conservative groups. FBI investigators haven't spoken to any of the victims. Well, let's bring in our political panel. Ford O'Connell, chairman of the Civic Forum PAC and former outreach director for John McCain for president, and Cris Kofinis, former chief of staff to Senator Joe Manchin. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Jamie.
Morning. Really nice to have you here. Chris, we are still wondering who ordered the targeting that we now know the IRS was involved in. How high up do you think it went, and will we ever know for sure?
Well, I mean, all the evidence, at least to this point, suggests that there were obviously agents in Cincinnati. There were obviously some other officials in Washington that were involved. In terms of I think suggestions or allusions that this was directed by the White House, there's no evidence to suggest that. In terms of finding out, I do think that we will find out. I mean, investigations like this tend to be slow. They tend to be laborious. It's not a nice thing, but it is, I think, the unfortunate reality of how Washington works. But at the end of the day, I think there's just too many interests involved, and this is going to be too political, as it already is, for not finding out, the truth and getting to the bottom of what really happened.
Well, one thing that you're saying to us, Chris, is that there is no evidence that there was any involvement in the White House. But Ford, this is a bit stunning to people who hear it. The number of visits that not only the IRS director, but his chief of staff visited the White House, according to White House logs, some 300 or more times. Now, he's the chief strategy advisor to the head of the IRS. Does he have any obligation or duty to be at the White House to advise anybody else? And if not, what was he doing there?
Well, I think that's a key question. For Chris to say that there's no evidence is absolutely ridiculous, given that it appears that the FBI has no interest in getting to the bottom of this. It also is clear that congressional Democrats don't want to get to the bottom of this because of the 2014 elections, and we know that the White House certainly doesn't want to, pin the tail on themselves. So it's completely outrageous, and I think that a lot more Americans should be concerned because essentially, how can we trust the IRS to effectively implement Obamacare and comprehensive immigration reform if we can't trust them to lay and collect taxes based on our political beliefs? This is not about Republicans and Democrats. This is about a culture of intimidation. And my question going forward is, I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of this because this White House, it just wants it to go away.
Chris, Congressman Cummings, he says this investigation is over and done with. Looked at it, didn't find anything, let's move on. Can you justify that?
No, I mean, this is not over. I mean, but let's be honest. Chairman Issa, who is no friend of the administration, has been investigating this thing for weeks. If there was any indication or any evidence that this went anywhere close to the White House, does anyone think that wouldn't be out already? That doesn't suggest that you stop the investigation. Clearly, there's going to be, more interviews. There's going to be more testimony. There's going to be more hearings. We all know that's coming. But, everyone, I think, should take a little bit of a deep breath before they start throwing around, political, footballs and trying to make this more than it is. Let's find out what the truth is. Let's get to the bottom of it. And those who did something wrong should be held accountable. I'm not sure that either the administration or Democrats, want anything different.
But is there more pressure, Ford, to get to the bottom of this since the IRS will be tasked with something so intricate? So many people have questions about Obamacare and its implementation. Shouldn't this have been straightened out already, or are you okay with the way the investigation is going? Will we get answers that the American people deserve?
Well, absolutely, I'm not okay with the way the investigation is going. If they haven't talked to any of the victims, that is a big issue here. This is beyond just sort of partisan politics. This is about the IRS, and can government effectively work, and can we have trust and transparency in our leaders to effectively execute their duties? And that's really the big question here. And if Americans can't trust their government, I don't understand how we're going to function. I certainly don't know how we're going to let 11 million people in here based on comprehensive immigration reform. And I also don't understand how we're going to have this massive intrusion called Obamacare. Well, this is about trust and transparency, Jamie. And to your question before about the 300 visits to the White House,
quickly,
I promise you they were not talking about President Obama's NCAA bracket, which was an absolute disaster.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you, Ford and Chris. Stay on it for us. We want to hear from both of you about there's hearings this week. Keep us posted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Eric.
Jamie.